Part 40. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 391. He immediately raised his eyes to look at everyone, nodded and said, "You can go get ready." Everyone nodded and turned into a stream of light and left the place. In the main hall, Suza came here with Mo-chen and Han-er, and bowed his hands to the old man above. Finally he found his place, knelt down and sat up, looked up at the old man, and listened to his next words. I saw the old man looking at everyone with a majestic expression, and said in a deep voice, "We Taoists have been working hard for thousands of years, and now our strength has been gathered. I don't want to say anything more. I have only one order for you, and that is to kill all the Buddhist gates. Let them also have a taste of what we were like in those years." Hearing this, everyone nodded solemnly. There is nothing more to say. All Taoist priests who have reached the celestial immortal realm will participate in this battle. Especially some juniors who are just starting out. They were already excited, as if they had seen themselves stabbing a bald donkey to death with one sword. And Buddhist Gate was naturally aware of Taoist behavior. After deliberation for a while, 10 ancient Saint Realm peak experts were sent to surround them, followed closely by tens of thousands of Buddhist Gate disciples. The top of Xianhuang is a plain with no end in sight, and this is also where Taoism and Buddhism fight. And high in the sky, dozens of figures stood here next to each other. Everyone looked at each other with murderous intent. But Kyoshi was not inside, but among the crowd in the plain, watching the scene quietly. I was still a little amazed at the strength of the two. To be able to send out so many strong men from the ancient Saint Realm, you must know that the 4 major forces in the realm of life and death together only have a dozen or so strong men from the ancient Saint Realm. And here, there are nearly 30 strong ancient saints standing. You bald donkeys have invaded my Taoist family for so long, do you really still have any dignity? Do you still have the dignity of being a powerful force? Don't you Buddhist Gate always use compassion as a Buddhist rule? To be able to do such inhumane things is like a bunch of beasts, even worse than beasts. Today, I, the Taoist, will act on behalf of heaven and eradicate your Buddhist Gate so that all living beings will receive blessings. A majestic-looking middle-aged man wearing a blue robe stood high in the sky, looking at the people at the Buddhist Gate and speaking righteously. Everything he says and does makes a mockery of Buddhist Gate's rules. Everyone at Buddhist Gate also blushed and immediately retorted, "You fart, you are talking as if your Taoist family has humanity. Don't forget, when we each had our own side of the world, you Taoist family often bullied mortals, even visiting brothels and teasing women. The poor monk wants to ask, which of these things can be done by humans?" After hearing this, everyone in the Taoist family clenched their fists, especially some people who immediately lowered their heads when they heard this. But I was too lazy to continue talking. A green jade sword appeared in everyone's hands, condensing a powerful sword intent, and rushed towards the Buddhist Gate crowd. In an instant, the two were fighting together. One after another, palms hit the ground continuously, the sky roared, and countless Sanskrit sounds filled everyone's ears. When the others saw this, they no longer hesitated and started fighting each other with fanatical arrogance. Boom! Boom boom boom! One attack after another resounded between the heaven and the earth, the void was torn, the space was shattered, but in the blink of an eye, holes after holes appeared on the plain. However, it was the Kyoshi trio who stood out most in this battle, because their offensive was extremely different from the two. The moves are ferocious, killing with one strike without any hesitation. Especially Mo-chen, he was shining brightly at this moment, holding a black spear in his hand like a god of war, constantly shuttling through the crowd. One roaring attack after another blasted out. The roaring dragon, the chaotic gun shadow. However, hundreds of Buddhist Gate masters died in his hands in an instant. Such a scene was naturally followed by Buddhist Gate masters. Don't the donor's method seem a bit cruel? A strong man with a rough appearance, a Buddhist bead around his neck, and a fierce aura appeared across from Mo Chen. There was a hint of solemnity in a pair of bright eyes. Hearing this, Mo Chen looked at him coldly, held a spear in his hand, and said disdainfully, "Don't you think what you said is stupid? You and I are neither relatives nor friends. Although we are not mortal enemies, we are not friends either. But since getting involved will lead to a fight, then I have no chance of showing any mercy. Is it possible that I still have to give in to you? No wonder you have such futile thoughts and can't even unleash your strength. In my opinion, you are too weak." Mo Chen didn't mean what he said, it was the truth. For example, Taoists use swordsmanship and have no other weapons to use. Even if there is one, it is just a condensed magic circle. But the magic circle is also related to the sword. It doesn't matter if you have a high talent in swordsmanship, but the talent between people is not uniform. Some people are not suitable for using swords, but are suitable for using other weapons, but because of futile thinking, some people are not allowed to do this. Even if you use other weapons, you will be regarded as an alien by other people. Like Taoism, Buddhist gate does not recruit external disciples. Rather, it is inherited from father to son. It is precisely because of this that Taoism and Buddhism can only use the descendants of the strong, and some talented disciples have also missed them. The corner of the strong man's mouth moved, whether what he said was right or wrong, and for a moment he didn't know how to refute. But when the strong man was stunned, Han Er's figure had already appeared behind him, grinning ferociously. He picked up the sharp blade in his hand and inserted it into his chest. There was a pop, and blood flowed out instantly. The strong man looked a bit incredulous. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. Han Er punched his head to pieces. He was thrown aside as if he were trash and said with a smile, "The reaction is really slow, completely different from the opponents I usually encounter, and they can't even exert the power of this realm." At this moment, suddenly, there was a tearing sound in the sky, and a space crack tore open. An extremely huge ferry boat that exuded a strange and ominous aura slowly swam out from it. As soon as he appeared, a terrifying pressure instantly swept across the field. The powerful ancient saints who were fighting could not help but be stunned by this coercion and quickly looked up. They found a huge thing that covered the sky and the sun appeared in their eyes, and there were black shadows coming out of it one after another. It was the powerful men from the second hall. Each was wearing a black robe, holding a sharp knife in his hand, and his eyes were cold. Dong 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 dong. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 392. The sound of footsteps reached everyone's ears, and the next moment, the powerful men in the second hall stood on both sides and gave up the middle position. A man wearing a black robe and a mask appeared in front of everyone. The aura exuding from his body was as cold as an ice cave, making people tremble with fear and horror. And he also held two double blades in his hands. The pungent smell of blood instantly spread throughout the air. This person is the fusion of the two. When the powerful men saw this, their faces were startled, their eyes showed solemnity, and even the fighting gradually stopped. Seeing this scene, Kyoshi and the other three people at the bottom smiled. Next is their special performance. However, the Buddhist gate and the Taoists did not know who these people were. A monk wearing a golden cassock stood up, first bowed to the Buddha, and then asked, "I wonder who the donors are? Right now, my Buddhist gate is in a fight with the Taoists. I hope all the donors will not get involved." But the people in the second hall did not make any move, and still looked at them coldly. This made the strong Buddhist gate man a little angry, but when he thought about the strength of these people, he tried his best to relax and said, "Dear donors, I wonder if the monk's voice was too low or something. If you heard it, please reply." This time, the strong man from the second hall was just like before, still unmoved and looking at him coldly. However, Mo Ying spoke up at this time, but his tone was somewhat disdainful. "Old bald donkey, why are you talking so much nonsense? To tell you the truth, I am here just to destroy your Buddhist gate, nothing else. So, if you are wise enough to surrender, you will be spared your life, and you won't have to suffer physical pain. Of course, I have one more thing to tell you, so that you will understand better. This time we came under the orders of someone." "What order?" The strong men from Buddhist Gate and Taoism couldn't help but be surprised when they heard this. They looked at each other with doubts on their faces. But the strong Taoists seemed to have noticed who it was, and found the figures of Kyoshi and the others in the crowd. A strong man of immortal venerable level came to Kyoshi and asked, "Immortal Master, do you know these people?" Hearing this, Suzu showed a smile to him and did not choose to hide it. He nodded and replied, "Of course I know them. Isn't this a big war about to happen? I happen to know some people, and they happen to owe me a favor, so I asked them to come over. So today we only need to watch this battle, and we don't need to worry about anything else." Hearing this, the man looked stunned. The other powerful Taoists also looked at each other. But at this moment, an old man wearing a white robe with an immortal demeanor appeared in everyone's eyes. It is the Taoist temple master named Yun Xing. Guanzu. Everyone around saw Yun Xing's figure and quickly bowed down. Yun Xing nodded, looking at the scene in front of him, his expression froze and he frowned. He naturally heard what Suzu just said. "In fact, I thought about rejecting Kyoshi's help. After all, asking others to help doesn't mean that his Taoism is inferior to Buddhist Gate." But looking at the wounds on other Taoists, he hesitated again. After a moment, Yun Xing sighed softly. And an old man wearing a golden beaded cassock, with white eyebrows and beard, appeared in the sky. It is Huiming, the current leader of Buddhist Gate. Huiming frowned, but did not show any guilt, but asked sharply. He coughed heavily, pointed his finger at Kyoshi below, and said. Everyone looked at each other, a little confused as to who the person Suzy was talking about, and the audience leader Yun Xing could not help but show a hint of curiosity. Suzy chuckled lightly, nodded and said. I can't stop this, you go tell him. He remembered that he had never told anyone about this news, including the senior monks at Buddhist Gate. He did something that made people angry. Mortals in the Xianhuang realm have been disappearing all the time recently. That's what he did. What? The Xianhuang realm does have this rule. The reason why I broke the rule is because someone broke this rule before. Seeing this, Huiming raised his eyebrows, raised his eyes, and said. Junior, you have been promoted to a Taoist in the Xianhuang realm, so you should also know the rules. This person is also the leader of Buddhist Gate, Master Huiming, who stands opposite Lao Hu, and he often stays with demon race. Everyone looked stunned, but the fact was exactly as Kunze said before, and they were full of disbelief. Fuck you, the poor monk is a body of justice. How can a person who has achieved righteousness do something like that and break the rules? If he can break it, why can't I? Old Niobe, I wonder what you mean. Hearing this, Suzu's face showed a smile, his cloudy eyes shone with a glimmer of light, and he asked. Yun Xing was also shocked by what Suzu said. He. You know, this is a competition between our two families. Other strengths are not allowed to participate. But what about today? Don't you know that this is a violation of the rules? Hearing this, Yun Xing snorted coldly. He hated it when others called him Niobe. Before everyone could speak, Kyoshi revealed a piece of bombshell news. After saying this, Huiming still felt a little guilty, but she still braced herself, took a breath, and calmed down. How does this guy know? Before he could ask the question, Huiming here became a little nervous and hurriedly retorted, even swearing. Huiming's cloudy eyes were seen looking around, and then he looked at Yun seeing opposite. The poor monk also gives you one last warning. But anger is anger, and it is impossible for him to break the rules. After finishing speaking, everyone present stared at Kyoshi intently, somewhat curious about how he would answer the sentence next. How can you say about capturing mortals and dedicating them to the demon race? He lowered his eyes slightly, revealing a strong murderous intention, but there was also a trace of confusion and doubt in his heart. Okay, in that case, I would like to ask who destroyed it first? Can you tell? Since I know someone has broken the rules, why can't I tell them? But I'm afraid you won't believe me when I tell this person later. I think you are just trying to confuse the public with your evil words. Moreover, I have never seen your appearance. I am afraid that you are either from another realm, or you want to take this opportunity to stir up chaos in our Xianhuang realm. You must never believe what this person says. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 393. The Taoists here frowned when they saw Huiming being so eager to refute. Even if it was not true, your mood swings are too big, right? A trace of suspicion arose in everyone's mind. However, Yun Xing, a powerful immortal emperor, saw Huiming's expression, clenched his fists, pointed at him, and said angrily, "The evil person is indeed an evil person. No wonder disciples often tell us that mortals in the world have disappeared in large numbers." Yun Xing really didn't expect that Huiming would do such a thing. The two major forces compete for hegemony for nothing more than to enjoy more cultivation resources. But before enjoying this, you can't break the rules. Otherwise, you are not worthy of your virtue. He will be criticized verbally and writtenly by all the forces in the Xianhuang realm. Now that Huiming has done something like this, you can imagine how angry and resentful he is. Only his Taoist family knows about this matter. If this news is known to other forces in the Xianhuang realm, then the Buddhist gate may be directly overturned. Boom! At this moment, Yun Xing burst out with a strong imperial power, and the terrifying momentum formed one great Dao law after another. The law swept high in the sky, causing a sensation. In an instant, Huiming on the opposite side seemed to feel something, his pupils trembled, and before he could react, the great Dao turned into a giant hand in the sky and attacked him. Such a shocking scene made everyone look horrified. A strong Buddhist gate man wanted to pull Huiming away, but unfortunately, under the powerful imperial power, how could he move even half an inch? Ah! The giant hand of the sky grasped Huiming. At this moment, he was like an ant, struggling constantly, with frightened eyes and panic on his face. The Taoist family, have been saving for so long. We only want to take back what is rightfully ours. We also only want to let you Buddhist gate experience the suffering we suffered back then. I have never thought of killing all of you. But today, not only did you capture a large number of mortals to sacrifice for the demon race, you even broke the rules, so I can't keep you. Die. As he finished speaking, he saw Yun Xing's eyes turning like the vast galaxy, his back showing a virtual image, and the great Dao flowing around him like a long river. He immediately controlled his big hand and crushed Huiming to death without hesitation. Ah! Huiming screamed like a slaughtering pig, but in the end he could not escape death, and the ghost inside the Buddha statue in the Buddhist hall seemed to have felt it. He looked startled, but in the end he didn't say anything, but his own demonic energy disappeared from the Buddha statue. When everyone at the Buddhist gate here saw this scene, they were immediately heartbroken and burst into tears. Although Huiming broke the rules and interacted with people from demon race, he was still a good person, and he dedicated himself to Buddhist gate. I just want to lead Buddhist gate to prosperity. When the demonic figure in mid-air saw this scene, his expression was slightly startled, but he hid it again. Yun Seeing just released a breath that made his soul shake and his hair stand on end. At this moment, he felt the breath of death. But within a moment, he breathed out again. Although the Immortal Emperor is terrifying, he is just a person who has just broken through the Immortal Emperor. What's more, the four great beasts are here this time. But within a moment, he suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Moying did not hesitate to lead the powerful men from the second hall to rush towards the Buddhist gate people. Half a quarter of an hour later, the assassination finally stopped. The powerful men in the second hall were no exception, but they were not worried. But at this moment, an extremely powerful pressure suddenly appeared here. Kill all these people and don't spare a hand. Even if he couldn't defeat the Immortal Emperor, he could at least contain him. With a bang, the sky became dark, and amid the flash of lightning, a man wearing ordinary monk robes, with scorching eyes and majestic appearance appeared in front of everyone. The fighting started again, but this time, everyone at Buddhist Gate couldn't resist at all, especially since Huiming had just died. There is nothing luxurious about him, nor does he have any conspicuous Buddhist beads, making it look like he is really an ordinary monk. Everyone in the Taoist family looked a little nervous when they saw this scene, but at this moment, they suddenly realized that their bodies could not move. His face was pale and his figure was shaky, like an old man with a dead tree, as if he had been seriously injured. After Yun Seeing abdicates, I believe it is most appropriate for him to lead the Taoist family. As for the 7 peak masters, they are still hiding in the nether boat and watching. They will come out at a certain time. Otherwise, they would not have massacred like this. After all, it was degrading and unethical. In just a few breaths, most of the strong men at Buddhist Gate were dead. Of course, after this incident, I believe Kyoshi will become different in the eyes of everyone in Taoism. You just joined Immortal Emperor, how dare you fight with me, an Immortal Emperor third layer? Am I saying that you are stupid, or are you brave? In this battle, the ones who killed the most were the strong men from the second hall. They could be described as ruthless and deadly. The surging momentum caused the nearby void to burst open, and the nearby mountain peaks gradually swayed and shattered in an instant. It was as if something was firmly controlling them. The man couldn't help but chuckle. He didn't look like a monk at all, but he didn't care at all whether he was a monk or not. Immediately he looked at the Taoists behind him and issued an order. I saw Kyoshi among the crowd, and then looked at the people in the second hall, but didn't say anything for a long time. And Yun Seeing had been high in the sky, watching the scene with a calm expression. When he saw that the fighting was over, he appeared in front of everyone. This was the first time they had fought so hard. After all, he is not old, has high talents, and can let such a force come to help him, which is enough to show that his ability is also very strong. But when Yun Seeing here saw this person, his expression became very solemn, he no longer restrained himself, and began to confront his momentum. After Yun Seeing here killed Huiming, he calmed down and looked at the people at Buddhist Gate with cold eyes. And this man had already stepped in front of Yun Seeing, stared at him, and said. There were corpses everywhere for thousands of miles. After the words fell, everyone looked stunned, but they did not dare to refute. They picked up the jade sword in their hands and rushed towards the Buddhist Gate crowd with ferocious expressions. The scene was very bloody, with blood flowing underground like a long river, and the pungent smell of blood spread through the air. In addition to them, there were some senior Taoist priests who also wanted to vomit, but they had experienced a lot and endured it. Such a scene naturally made some newcomers unbearable and began to vomit violently. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 394. Immediately, the man's eyes turned and looked at the corpse thousands of miles away. A hint of anger suddenly appeared on his calm expression. But he hid it again, looked at Yun Seeing, and then at the powerful men in the second hall, seeming to be thinking about something. Seeing this scene, Yun Xing said nothing, pursed his lips, and secretly recovered from his injuries. He knew who the visitor was. He was the ancestor of the Buddhist gate from the first 3 generations, a genius who had reached the realm of immortal emperor thousands of years ago. His name is Tianhai. However, he did not participate in the battle between Buddhist gate and Taoism, not because there were rules restricting him, but because he felt it was not necessary at all. After all, after reaching the realm of immortal emperor, your vision is no longer what it was before, but you are looking even further. He just wants to break through to the next level, and he has no interest in the 2 major forces competing for hegemony. Even if he knew that demon race had infiltrated the Buddhist gate, he just laughed it off and didn't say anything. But today is different. Not only did tens of thousands of his Buddhist gate disciples die, but even the current leader of the Buddhist gate was killed. In this case, he had to stand up. Because this has violated his bottom line. Tianhai looked around and seemed to notice something again. He smiled, looked at the nether boat high in the sky and shouted. I didn't expect that I would detect the auras of the 4 divine beasts here today. What a great fate. I wonder if the 4 of you can come out and give me some insights. As soon as the words fell, 4 streams of light instantly came to the vicinity of Tianhai on the nether boat, and their figures also appeared. However, at this time, they did not appear in their true form, but in human form. White Tiger is a strong man with a strong body and a fierce appearance. Azure Dragon, also known as Long Ao, turned into a handsome young man wearing a blue-black robe. And Vermilion Bird transformed into a woman wearing a fiery red robe with a majestic appearance. Her red hair is particularly eye-catching, almost as much as her slender white thighs. Black Tortoise transformed into a burly, tall, and fierce man. Every time he took a step, the ground began to shake, as if the sky was shattering. The appearance of the 4 people also made Tianhai's expression become serious instantly. The great Daola appeared around him, and countless thunder and flames flickered in it. The terrifying Emperor Wei also pounced on the 4 of them instantly. However, the 4 of them were well prepared. A shadow of their true form appeared behind them, erupting with an overwhelming force to resist this imperial power. Boom! The 2 collided, creating a roar and a raging air wave that swept hundreds of millions of miles around, killing and injuring countless people. The faces of the Taoists here were extremely ugly. The pressure of the immortal emperor was so terrifying that they felt a fatal threat. But Tianhai restrained himself because he was afraid of attracting the attention of the powerful immortal emperor from other realms. After all, there are rules in the human domain. Fighting between immortal emperors is strictly prohibited. Even if they fight, they cannot unleash their full strength. Because the momentum is too terrifying, a collision will affect the entire domain. If you insist on bursting out your strength to compete with others, the ancestral realm strongman will come directly. If you don't obey, he will beat you until you obey. Tianhai raised his eyebrows when he saw that the 4 great beasts could work together to resist the power of the Guer Emperor, and showed a smile, saying with satisfaction, Yes, I am worthy of the name of your divine beast. I, Tianhai, have learned a lesson today, but that doesn't mean I will spare these people. So I accept the lives of 10 ancient saint realms. After the words fell, 10 ancient saint realm experts in the Taoist family died instantly, and they did not react at all. The death of 10 powerful ancient saints made Yun Xing's pupils tremble. He was really heartbroken, and he had nothing to do. I just joined the immortal emperor not long ago, and I don't have the strength to defeat Tianhai, who has the immortal emperor 3rd layer. The next moment, the arrow of law was blocked by a powerful force and could not advance even half a point. But now Yun Xing was seriously injured and posed no threat to them, so the only one the 4 of them had to deal with was Tianhai. So what if I haven't reached the prime of life? Anyway, I'm not fighting with you alone today. I'll show you later how powerful our 4 great beasts are. Black Tortoise and Vermilion Bird here also replied in unison. The roar was deafening and resounded throughout the sky, causing everyone in the Taoist family to look ugly and their eardrums to hurt. Seeing this, Tianhai's expression did not change. White Tiger also transformed into his true form, roared disdainfully, and the terrifying murderous aura on his body shot straight into the sky and sea. I saw Long Ao transformed into the azure dragon body, and the rolling dragon power was released, even as it let out a huge roar. In fact, the 10 ancient saint realm experts do not need to die, because as long as the 4 great beasts and Yun Seeing join forces, Tianhai really can't do anything to them. What's more, compared to the tens of thousands of people who died at Buddhist Gate, the 10 people who killed Taoists are still relatively few. The arrows of law rushed towards the 4 divine beasts with the momentum of destroying the heaven and the earth, and the pressure spread across thousands of miles. Take back the lives of the dead little by little. But Tianhai seems to have no chance, because this time the targets of the 4 great beasts are him and Yun Seeing. It turned into its true form, and a terrifying momentum swirled around here. The surging sharp light covered the sky and the sun, resounding throughout the Xianhuang realm. Tianhai raised his hand and condensed, and with a bang, terrifying laws were everywhere, only at this moment. Seeing this scene, the 4 great beasts looked startled. Although they did not have the power of the beasts, they could use their own power. Tianhai didn't show any facial expressions when he killed these 10 people. There is absolutely no fear of the 4 divine beasts. Roar. Is it possible that I took a step back? Aren't you 4 great beasts letting it go? What does this Taoist have to do with you? Is it worth this? Snort. All the strong men dispersed their consciousness, looked towards it, and saw this shocking scene, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. Tianhai pulled his long bow fiercely, and there was a whoosh. Both were speechless. The next moment, the great Dao around him appeared, the sky shattered, the earth shook, and the sky roared, like a catastrophe. Don't forget, you are not in your prime now, and you don't have the real power of a divine beast. You are not qualified to fight with me. They are just some ants, it is not a pity to die. The great Dao turns into a sharp bow, and the law becomes an arrow. Forcibly replace the power of the divine beast. But Tianhai here frowned, a little confused as to what Long Ao meant. He half closed his eyes and said, "Today, he just spared them for the sake of the 4 great beasts. When he has the opportunity in the future, he will naturally take action against the Taoists again." However, the 4 divine beasts had no intention of helping, but just watched indifferently. After all, whether these people died or not had nothing to do with them. That's right. The sky-like figure covered the entire sky, and the surrounding area instantly became dark. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 395. Interesting. Tianhai couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he saw that his arrow of law was blocked by the combined efforts of the 4 divine beasts and could not advance even half a point. But he showed a satisfied smile. "But I am worthy of the name of your 4 great beasts. It is exactly as the legend says. If one of you reaches the prime of life, maybe I really can't do anything to you. It's a pity, it's a pity." Speaking of this, Tianhai showed a trace of regret again in his eyes, and once again condensed the broken great Dao with his bare hands. Boom! The fragments of law are wandering here like the Yangtze River, and in the blink of an eye, they merge into sharp swords one after another. Great Dao also reunites like fragments. There was a commotion high in the sky, purple lightning flashed, huge thunders continued, and countless laws of thunder rolled. The expressions of the 4 great beasts were also quite solemn. They knew that Tianhai was about to use his true abilities. Everyone stared at the scene intently. The next moment, the great Dao Law turned into a spear that flashed with thunder. The spear burst into thunder and charged towards the 4 great beasts with a terrifying momentum. Thunder? Thunder belongs to my home court. Long Ao's eyes lit up when he saw the spear flashing with thunder, and in an instant, his thunder punishment domain was activated. Boom! Countless divine thunders appeared in the sky where the great Dao of thunder was originally scattered. Dark clouds spread all over the sky and began to slowly condense, turning into whirlpools of thunder one after another. In the blink of an eye, they formed a thunderbolt as thick as a bucket. What? Tianhai here was startled, his eyes flashing with shock. He didn't expect that Long Ao actually had the power of the domain. In this case, it would be a bit troublesome, but it would not be a big deal, because he had said that the four great beasts did not have the power of the beasts yet. Not yet in his prime, he is no match for him. I can only restrain my own moves for the time being. The next moment, the divine thunder transformed into a 10,000-foot-long thunder dragon, rushing towards the spear flashing with thunder light. The next moment, the two collided. There was a deafening sound, the sky shook, the laws collapsed, the mountains and rivers were shattered, and even some strong Taoists died in it. Fortunately, Yun Xing reacted at this time, stopped recovering from his injuries, and gathered the power of the great Dao to protect the remaining Taoists. His eyes looked at the two again. At this time, in mid-air, the momentum of the collision had turned into starlight and dissipated in the air. Long Ao stood in front, looking down at the sky and sea with his head held high. Behind him were three people, Vermilion Bird, White Tiger, Black Tortoise. At this time, the three people were transporting strong mana into Long Ao's body. After all, Long Ao had the power of the domain. And it is a more domineering thunder punishment. Although you can't fight with Tianhai for a long time, you can still compete with Tianhai in a short time. When the demon shadow here saw this scene, he turned his eyes slightly and looked at Yun Xing, and his figure instantly appeared in front of him. Aware of the figure beside him, Yun Xing glanced at him indifferently and said nothing. But Moying didn't mind this at all, smiled, cupped his hand and said. After all, he knew that after this incident, Tianhai would never let his Taoist go, and would definitely find an opportunity to take action in the future. Is it because you think your Taoist family didn't kill enough strong men? You just killed 10 strong ancient saints from your Taoist family, and now you are attacking me again. Are you challenging my patience? Senior, don't feel resentful because of the inaction of the four great beasts just now. Senior's situation can be relaxed. Just pretend that you didn't see what happened just now. Abandon everything you did before, and deal with this person together with the four great beasts. But at this moment, Long Ao, who had transformed into his true form, roared angrily and used the thunder punishment domain to mobilize the sky thunder to hit him. Senior Yun, I believe you have seen this situation now. The old bald donkey Buddhist gate has been temporarily restrained by the four sacred beasts, but he cannot be completely suppressed. But at this moment, Tianhai seemed to notice it and raised his hand to block the move. In an instant, his figure appeared on a mountain peak. Tianhai's arm hurt, and he immediately tore the spirit snake off hard. The spirit snake felt the pain, let go of its teeth, and returned to the turtle's back again. He used his indestructible turtle back to block the heavy blow, and then a spiritual snake on the turtle's back also bared its teeth, rushed in front of Tianhai in an instant, and bit his arm hard. The white tiger here didn't hesitate, looked at Tianhai with ferocious eyes, and roared at him. As the words fell, the sky and sea condensed the great Dao law, and the greatness of the world that controlled this area turned into several boulders, blocking the blow. Mo Ying seemed to have noticed this, and said kindly. But when the four great beasts here saw this situation, how could they give him a chance? The next moment, they saw the black tortoise, which was blocking the sky and the sun, rushing directly here. Hearing this, Yun Xing snorted coldly and smiled disdainfully. It was impossible for him to take action just based on these. The next moment, Yun Xing's figure appeared behind Tianhai, turned into a sword with the power of the great Dao, and stabbed him in the back without hesitation. Vermilion Bird came to Tianhai's head and cast his true fire. Nan Mingluo aimed at him and rushed over. Seeing this flame that could burn everything in the world, Tianhai gritted his teeth, condensed the great Dao Law and aimed at the attacking Nanming Luo. The blade of the sword slashed through the shattering void sky, as if intending to pierce the heart with an arrow. Chirp! A golden jade sword appeared in his hand. The jade sword exuded golden light and struck towards the sky and sea. At this moment, Tianhai looked a little displeased. He raised his eyes and looked at Yun Xing, exuding a terrifying aura, and angrily said. Seeing this scene, Tianhai sneered and said disdainfully. With a roar, Nan Mingluo instantly turned into fire, but dissipated in mid-air in a moment. Seeing this scene, the demon shadow on the spot smiled slightly. What he just said was just a bit unwilling to accept the inaction of the four great beasts. What do you mean? Whoosh. So at this time, we have to rely on you and them to work together to deal with him. After all, he just killed 10 ancient Saint Realm experts from your Taoist family. I believe the seniors also have some resentment towards him. After all, it's good for you and me. The roar that resounded throughout the world soared into the sky, and such a terrifying wave of air hit Tianhai's mind, making him dizzy for a while, but he quickly reacted. Hearing this, Yun Xing narrowed his eyes and said nothing. But it wasn't over yet. A bird song came from high in the sky. Then he controlled these boulders again to attack Yunxing. Yun Xing glanced at him, but still didn't speak, but his eyes were directed at Tianhai, and in the blink of an eye, the figure disappeared from the spot. You, an immortal emperor who has just broken through, want to fight me? You are simply seeking death. But he was deep in thought. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 396. Aiming at the giant thunder in front of him, he released a huge Buddha palm. With a bang, the giant thunder instantly shattered. Before he could take a breath, Yun Xing on the other side also took this opportunity to gather a giant sword from the sky and rush toward his neck. Seeing this scene, Tianhai clenched his fists hard, feeling very aggrieved. Damn it! Helpless, he could only resist again. Boom! This move was easily blocked by him. But the battle did not stop, because the four great beasts on the other side had arrived around Tianhai. Mobilizing the magic power in the body, they unleashed one move after another on him. At this time, the 7 people on the nether boat finally appeared and took out an ancient formation and arranged it at the foot of Tianhai. All this was done without anyone noticing. Even Tianhai, a powerful immortal emperor, didn't feel it. Because at this moment, his consciousness was focused on this group of people. After half a stick of incense, Tianhai, a powerful immortal emperor, felt a little tired from the continuous attacks from everyone. Panting, looking pale. And there was a trace of a wound on his cheek. This was during the battle just now. Yun Xing found the right opportunity to release a powerful sword energy at him. He didn't dodge, and the sword energy slipped onto his cheek. When Long Ao saw this scene, his eyes moved, but he still suppressed his patience and continued to attack, and instead came to the surroundings of Tianhai. I advise you to be wiser. After all, you have to deal with not just the 4 of us now, but also another immortal emperor. If you continue like this, you will only lose, so why bother? Wouldn't it be better to surrender earlier? Hearing this, Tianhai raised his eyes to look at him and smiled coldly. You want me to surrender? You can also say this. I am a powerful immortal emperor. Even if I surrender, I will surrender to the powerful immortal emperor, not you. Do you really think that I have no way to deal with you? Don't forget, I still have my divine ability that I haven't used yet. Hearing this, Long Ao's face showed a trace of solemnity, and he glanced at him warily. When a person reaches the level of immortal emperor, he can master the power of divine ability. Which divine ability you want to master is up to you. And as long as your talent and understanding are high enough, you can master all the divine abilities in the world. But the premise is that you have the ability. Speaking of which, Tianhai could have escaped directly, and there was no need to fight with these people. After all, once you become the immortal emperor, you can directly break through the space and escape across the void. But unfortunately Tianhai did not do such a thing. Because he felt that since he was a powerful immortal emperor, it was absolutely impossible to escape and admit defeat. After all, this would be too detrimental to one's dignity and face. So no matter what happens, he will not escape in such a miserable state, at least he will kill one person first. The people in the second hall and the Taoist family just watched intently, and they were shocked by the battle just now. My heart is like a turbulent wave that cannot calm down for a long time. It's not that they don't want to help, it's that they are too weak to participate in a battle of this level. You even have to avoid distance between yourself and the two. Because the momentum was so terrifying, just a trace of the breath leaking made them feel a fatal crisis. When the 7 people hiding behind the scenes saw this scene, they activated the ancient formation without hesitation. Boom! I saw a green light emerging from Tianhai's feet, and the next moment, the green light shone on Tianhai's body. The formation also completely enveloped him, and unleashed a mighty thunder upon him. Tianhai's expression instantly became ferocious, but he was not injured, but this formation really tortured him. Because this formation directly affects other people's souls. Even the immortal emperor can't hide. But this formation can only play a containment role. I believe that Tianhai will break free before long. Seeing this scene, the 4 of them looked at each other, and then nodded heavily, while Yun Xing on the side seemed to have guessed something. The next moment, the 4 great beasts were seen standing together, exuding overwhelming pressure. Boom! An extremely powerful force gathered in their hands. In just a few breaths, this force became more and more powerful, until it turned into a sky-like fireball. Seeing this, the 4 of them looked sternly, looked at Tianhai in the formation, and released him without hesitation. Boom! The fireball sliced through the void, causing a crackling sound to be heard, and the space began to shake slowly. Tianhai, who was in the formation, also looked over, looking startled and gritting his teeth. A loud sound burst out from his body, and a golden Buddha light appeared in front of him. Seeing this, Yun Xing's eyes lit up, he knew what Tianhai was going to do, and he also knew that he couldn't wait any longer. Gotta try that move. Boom! The next moment, I saw the great Dao river flowing around Yun Xing, and the power of the law shone like starlight. Immediately Yun Xing controlled the great Dao law and firmly brought them together into a sword. This sword is very ordinary and does not exude any powerful aura, but it is somewhat different. Because once you look at its aura, you will feel a pain that can tear apart your spirit. This object was evolved by Yun Xing based on the imperial weapon Fanjian. Then Yun Xing controlled this mortal sword, and with a movement of his hand, he mobilized the power of countless laws and injected it into it. There was a roar, and the sword trembled slightly. Immediately he rushed towards Tianhai. Aha! The momentum was extremely terrifying, and the laws of the world began to slowly break, as if they could not withstand his power. The people in the second hall and the Taoists on the side were shocked and speechless, staring closely with wide eyes. It seemed that he wanted to see how Tianhai would resist these 2 moves next. At this time, a huge Buddha statue had condensed around Tianhai. The Buddha's eyes glowed with golden light and Sanskrit sounds were uttered from its mouth. He exuded an aura of compassion. This is Tianhai's divine ability, compassion for gods and Buddhas. Boom! Immediately, I saw this huge Buddha statue getting bigger and bigger, like the sky descending into the world. The Buddha statue raised its palms and showed a trace of compassion to everyone in its eyes. but his eyes became cold in an instant, and then he aimed at the two incoming moves and blasted them away. Boom! When the two collided, the sound was deafening, hitting the sky, and the ground instantly turned into nothingness. It was as if everything before had disappeared. But this is just an illusion, but the scene is very real. Tianhai knelt on the ground with one knee, his face as pale as white paper dripping with cold sweat. After fighting for so long, and having unleashed his most powerful move, divine ability, he was at the end of his rope. However, the four divine beasts and Yun Xing did not. They still have 10% of their mana left to use. To deal with Tianhai, who is now exhausted, 10% of his mana is enough. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 397. I said it all, in the end result you just lose. Long Ao turned into a human form and stood in front of Tianhai and said. But I can give you a chance to survive, that is to join us, because the master behind us is very interested in you. And after joining us, you will get something very important. I believe you will not regret it. Hearing this, Tianhai raised his eyes to look at him and exhaled. His face was very calm at this moment. But his palms were tightly clasped together, which was enough to show that he was not willing to give in, but it was a pity that it was useless not to give in. The seven peak masters, Mo Ying and others also came here, waiting for his next answer. But at this moment, the sky high in the Xianhuang territory suddenly shook, as if something was about to burst out of the sky. Yun Xing also saw this scene, his eyes froze, as if he guessed what it was. The four great beasts, the seven peak masters Mo Ying and others also looked up. I saw thunder and lightning all over the sky high in the sky, and dark clouds. Boom! The void in the sky was instantly torn open, and an extremely powerful pressure rushed towards everyone like a tiger. Caught off guard, everyone was instantly pressed to the ground by the coercion, unable to move. Only Yun Xing and Tianhai could barely bear it. The next moment, a Daoist figure appeared in front of everyone. Black clothes, white hair, golden eyes. His handsome appearance was full of coldness and indifference. At this time, some strong men hiding in the dark also felt the momentum and hurriedly looked up. An old man with a stooped figure and white hair and beard was standing on a mountain peak, with a trace of golden light in his cloudy eyes. It seems that he has guessed who this Daoist figure is. Unexpectedly, the person who came turned out to be Duguyan, the most powerful demon flame worshipper among the four worshippers of the Seven Kills Hall. It seems that today's scene is interesting. Yun Xing barely resisted the pressure, raised his eyes to look at the figure in the sky, raised his hands with respect and asked. I wonder who the senior is. Can you tell me his name? After all, Yun Xing had never paid attention to some of the powerful men in the human temple of the Seven Kills Palace, and was focused on practicing. Naturally, I don't know who this person is. Snort. Duguyan snorted coldly and said nothing. There was a trace of anger in his cold eyes. He received instructions from the Seven Kills Hall to prevent the battle between the two, but now, this battle has angered him. Now that you have offended yourself, you have to endure your own anger and suffer the burning torture of your soul. This is his tyranny of Duguyan. The next moment, purple-black magic flames spread around, flowing like a long river, instantly bursting out with an extremely powerful momentum. With a roar, the magic flames roared, and the ferocious pressure rushed straight towards Yun Xing, pressing his straight back downwards. Yun Xing's face was extremely ugly, but he had no choice but to grit his teeth to resist the pressure. The purple-black magic flame also instantly engulfed Yun Xing. The manic and ferocious demonic flames entered Yun Xing's mind, burning his body and soul. Yun Xing's expression instantly turned ferocious, he knelt on the ground on one knee, and finally couldn't help but let out a wailing sound. The Taoists on the side couldn't help but secretly sweat for Yun Xing, closed their eyes, and prayed in their hearts that the viewer could persevere. After the words fell, Dugayan put his hand on Moying's head. This soul-rending pain made the demonic figure look ferocious. The expressions of everyone in the second hall were not much better, especially the demon shadow. He felt that the pressure was getting heavier and heavier, and even the bones were crackling, as if they would break apart in the next moment. Almost as long as you ask others what do they want, others almost always handed it over to him respectfully. It was like a giant mountain that prevented them from moving at all. When the powerful men in the second hall saw this scene, they wanted to help, but they were helpless. The imperial power released by Duguyan kept suppressing them. Although Long Ao has the heavenly punishment domain, he can summon divine thunder to launch an offensive against Duguyan. I have never suppressed my subordinates. I even often exchange my experiences with my subordinates and tell them some great truths. Ha ha ha. And this is what Duguyan did intentionally. Ah! Snored. Still not understanding what Duguyan said, Moying spoke up. Seeing this, Duguyan snorted coldly. Hearing this, Moying remained silent and did not look at Duguyan. He just gritted his teeth and resisted the pressure. He could only look at his own palace master like this. Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? I'm just curious about your secret method, so what if I don't give it to you? I don't believe that you don't have it in your soul. It makes me a little curious. If you take out that secret technique, I can choose to spare your life. How about it? In an instant, a majestic suction force appeared in Duguyan's hand. The demon's eyes widened. From this moment on, he felt a memory in his mind being forcefully absorbed by Duguyan's palm. The demon shadow was pinched by the palm of his hand and did not struggle, as if he had accepted his fate. However, he did not accept his fate, but he simply had no intention of giving him face. Instead, he laughed wildly. The demon shadow finally couldn't help but make a painful sound. Seeing this scene, the four great beasts could do nothing. Let them know how cruel this world is. And, my patience is limited. It's great to be able to negotiate terms with you, but if you don't give me face, then you have no need to live. You want a secret method? Do you think it's possible? Humph. You're an interesting ant, and it seems like two souls merged and became one. Immediately, his eyes glanced here, and the figure instantly appeared in front of the demon shadow, sizing him up, and said. He has never encountered it in normal times. But after all, his strength was still too weak, and the power of heaven's punishment was almost like scratching Duguyan's body. Seeing this scene, Duguyan's face became a little displeased, and he snorted coldly, and the great Dao around his body turned into a palm, pinched his neck, and lifted him up. But he still gritted his teeth and resisted. Although Shadow Demon and Soul Demon are usually very majestic and kill without mercy, he couldn't be kinder to his own people. Seeing this scene, Duguyan frowned. This was the first time he encountered such an interesting ant. Obviously he only has the strength of the human saint realm, but he can surpass the level and defeat the strong men of the ancient saint realm. After all, compared to your own life, that secret technique is nothing worth mentioning. I hope you, an ant, will think about it carefully, otherwise you will suffer 100 times the torture like that guy. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 398. There was no threat to him at all. At this moment, Duguyan's expression was one of great enjoyment, and the memory of swallowing the demonic shadow was almost complete. And in the process of devouring it, he suddenly discovered something out of the ordinary, such as the immortal jade bead. This thing made him very excited. A single bead can instantly lift a person who is stuck in one realm to several realms without any side effects. Who wouldn't be excited to ask this question? Duguyan was also eager to see what that thing was and see if he could make the bead. Duguyan's mind has been completely invaded by Moying's memory. He saw a large hall and a majestic figure sitting on a throne. Suddenly, the tall figure turned around. A pair of extremely dark eyes stared directly at him. "Who are you?" The stalwart figure let out a deep voice, which penetrated directly into Dugayan's soul, and he could still feel a strong sense of oppression. Dugayan was puzzled. In his perception, the strength of this majestic figure was only about the ancient saint realm. "Why do you feel oppressed? What's more, his strength has reached Immortal Emperor's 6th layer." Dugayan calmed down secretly, looked at the stalwart figure with a calm expression, and said, "I am the great enshrinement of the 7 Kills Hall, Dugayan." "Oh." The stalwart figure raised his eyebrows, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, looked up at him, and said, "It seems that there was a slight hiccup in the plan, and even if it was defeated, it was also a victory. If my guess is correct, you should be devouring the memories of my men. You happened to see me, and you seem to have noticed some of my secrets." Having said this, the stalwart figure stood up again, came to Dugayan in an instant, and looked directly at him. "But you are so brave, you actually dare to come and meet me directly." Dugayan smiled coldly and looked at each other without showing any weakness. "Why don't you dare? Are you just an ant from the ancient saint realm? If it weren't just a memory, I could crush you to death with one finger." Hearing this, the stalwart figure nodded and said, "That's true, but are you really so confident that you can kill me?" "What do you mean?" Dugayan frowned. The stalwart figure did not reply, his eyes instantly turned cold, and the entire hall fell into darkness. I saw a stalwart figure saying, "You are too confident. Not to mention in memory, even in reality, you are no match for me. You dare to attack my people, then you have to bear my anger. Let me see how many moves you can take." After the words fell, there was a roar, and the stalwart figure instantly burst out with a terrifying aura, and Dugayan's strength instantly dropped. From the original Immortal Emperor's 6th layer to the ancient saint high level. This situation caught Dugayan a little off guard. He looked at his body. He couldn't figure out why his strength dropped instantly. Is it possible? Dugayan's eyes trembled, as if he had guessed something. He quickly raised his eyes to look at the stalwart figure and exclaimed, "You have the power of a field that can reduce others' strength." The stalwart figure did not answer his words, but looked at him with cold eyes, as if looking at a dead person. "I saw him condensing the power of the law, summoning the law of thunder and lightning, and throwing the extremely violent thunder and lightning at him without hesitation." There was a roar, and thunder and lightning entered the body. Dugayan could not resist this move at all. A big hole was penetrated by Lei Tian in his chest. Blood flowed uncontrollably, and the wound was shocking. But it was not over yet. The stalwart figure raised his hand again, and countless chains instantly appeared in the hall. The chains wrapped around Dugayan's limbs, trapping him tightly and unable to move. Immediately, the stalwart figure waved his hand, and ants appeared in the hall instantly. "It's just that these ants are a little different from the ants you usually see. You tortured my men by devouring souls, so I tortured you by using sharp-horned ants. Isn't it fair? The pressure has not disappeared, and everyone is still unable to move as before, and can only stare at each other." Ah! Ah! This moment lasted for half an hour. But this is not the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing is their sharp corners, because there are barbs everywhere on the sharp corners. Dugayan has been tortured to the point where he is no longer human. Dugayan was startled when he saw this thing. "Dugayan, how are you? Doesn't it feel good to be tortured to death? It is also a monster that is perfect for torturing people. The scene can be described as very cruel." Then the stalwart figure did not hesitate anymore, controlled the sharp-horned ants, and rushed towards Dugayan. From the moment he entered his own memory, he couldn't get out unless he defeated himself. Now, Dugayan's life can be said to be firmly in his hands, and he controls him like a god. Yes, What do you want? Blood and minced meat poured down like a fountain. Dugayan nodded, his voice a little weak. Thinking about how he, a powerful immortal emperor, had ever been tortured like this. This is 100 times more difficult than life. In just a few breaths, Dugayan screamed like a slaughtering pig, with blood holes everywhere on his body. His eyes were full of fear and panic. Hearing this, Dugayan raised his head, looked at him with a fixed look in his eyes, and clenched his fists in his hands. Dugayan lay in the hall like a puddle of mud. He really wanted to kill this guy and make him endure 18 kinds of hellish torture. The stalwart figure knew that enough was enough, so he stopped letting the sharp-horned ants torture him and took back the iron chain. What they are best at is biting with their teeth. And when fighting, the sharp-horned ants will first bite off a piece of flesh with their teeth, and then drill into it with their sharp horns covered with barbs. When drilling in, the sharp horns will be like a tornado, spinning uncontrollably. Like a masher. The outside world didn't know what Dugayan was going through. Except for his ugly face, everything else was fine. There were sharp-horned ants one after another inside, biting and spinning with their sharp horns. They have a sharp horn on their head, with barbs everywhere on it, and their teeth are as sharp knives. You said you are the chief minister of the 7 Kills Hall. He knew what these things were. They were the most powerful ants in the ant community, called sharp-horned ants. The body was covered with minced meat and rotten flesh that had been bitten, and there were holes one after another on the arms, legs, and face. The stalwart figure showed a smile to Dugayan. The tall figure paid no attention to his expression. The stalwart figure came to him, looked at him with dark eyes, and made a teasing voice. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 399. The stalwart figure smiled, looked at Dugayan, and whispered. Do you still want to bear the feeling that life is worse than death? You know, as long as you can't defeat me, this place will never disappear, and you will be tortured by me for life after life. If you don't want to continue to be tortured by me like this and surrender to me, what do you say? After all, don't you want that thing? I have a lot of that thing. I can give it to you as long as you surrender to me. I can even give you a treasure to make you even more powerful. That's a good deal for you. Good deal? Snored. Hearing this, Dugayan sneered, stood up weakly, looked at the stalwart figure with a pale face, and said disdainfully. As the Grand Priest of the 7 Kills Hall, a strong man of the immortal Emperor's 6th layer, and someone who stands on top of the world, how can I surrender to you? I'm just a little curious about that thing of yours. Take it if you can get it, or if you can't get it. As for you saying you're going to give me treasures. It's pretty much what you're saying to those who are just starting out. I already have imperial weapons, and I'm also not short of immortal weapon elixirs. I want to ask, what can you give me? The stalwart figure glanced at him lightly and slowly said 2 words, physique. And they are twin demonic bodies with top-notch physiques. What? Dugayan looked startled, a little surprised in his heart. He had heard of the twin demons. It is a physique that can divide itself into 2 people. It is somewhat similar to Qin Xian's physique, but not different. The other person formed by the twin demon bodies has no independent consciousness and can also be said to be a puppet. It can only be controlled by its master and obey its orders. Moreover, the distance between oneself and the main body cannot be too far, but this can be ignored. The twin demon bodies may not seem strong, but in the eyes of those with high strength, this physique is considered to be extremely perfect. Because Dugayan is now the immortal Emperor's 6th layer. If this physique is given to him, it means that the clone he summons is also the immortal Emperor's 6th layer. Although he is unconscious, he can fight and fight with all his strength. Like the main body, he does not have to worry about anything and is afraid of getting hurt. Even if the clone dies, it won't be a big deal. As long as you have enough magic power, if one dies, you can still condense another one. But Tugayan still pretended to think for a while. Half a quarter of an hour later, he looked at the stalwart figure, nodded and said, "Okay, I am willing to surrender to you." Tugayan did not hesitate any longer. He had to get this physique. Anyway, it was just about surrendering to others. It's not like I haven't done it before. Thousands of years ago, he was defeated by a strong man from the Seven Kills Hall. However, the strong man saw that his talent and perseverance were too high and admired him. Instead of killing him, he pulled him into the Seven Kills Hall. Seeing that Tugayan agreed, the stalwart figure showed a smile and said, "Since you agree, I don't need to say anything more. I won't give you the physique now. I will give you a task first. After the task is completed, the physique will belong to you." Tugayan nodded, knowing that the stalwart figure would definitely not give his physique to him first, and asked, "What mission?" "Bring the two powerful immortal emperors from Taoism and Buddhist gate to my sect, that's it?" Tugayan raised his eyebrows. "So simple?" The stalwart figure smiled. "It's that simple." Seeing this, Tugayan said nothing more. But before leaving, the stalwart figure said another sentence. "When you accept this mission, you are already mine. If I don't wait for you to come over in a few days, your death will come. Hope you could understand." Hearing this, Tugayan's eyes moved and he nodded. Not to mention, he actually wanted to escape just now. After all, I had only met him once. Surrender is just an illusion. You can trick him into letting you out first, and then you can leave on your own. The demonic shadow also transformed into a soul demon and a shadow demon in a burst of light. The two of them glanced at everyone and felt warm in their hearts, but they still shook their heads and said. Everyone couldn't help but shudder, swallowed, and no longer had any intention to resist. "Please don't act rashly. Otherwise, the knife in our hands will fly to you." The dragon licked its mouth with its tongue, revealing its terrifying fangs. Only Soul Demon and Shadow Demon seemed to have guessed something. The two looked pale and touched their aching heads. In the outside world, Tugayan regained his consciousness, restrained his aura, released the demon's head, and returned his memory. "You two just go with me." "No, the trauma in the soul has been restored." I saw Hyunyi wearing a black robe standing up, looking at everyone with his dark eyes, and said with a ferocious smile. Seeing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the palace master was fine, otherwise they would have to blame themselves. I was startled, knowing that it was not a dream, but reality. However, Tugayan just glanced at everyone indifferently and did not speak. Instead, he raised his eyes and looked at Tianhai and Yungxing aside. The powerful man from the second hall who served as the summoner also instantly summoned tens of thousands of hell monsters, allowing these monsters to surround everyone. Seeing that the pressure disappeared, everyone in the second hall hurriedly came to the Soul Demon and Shadow Demon and said with concern. Palace Master, are you okay? Are you injured anywhere? Do you need my subordinates to help you take a look?" Afraid that he would continue to do it? Because the strength and methods of the stalwart figure were still vivid in his mind just now, he was really scared in his heart. They just had a dream, in which Tugayan surrendered to his master, but they didn't know whether it was true or false. He also restored his soul. This situation left everyone a little confused. Then his face instantly turned cold, he looked at the Taoists and the Buddhist gate people, and a sharp blade appeared in his hand. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other, and when they were about to say something, the four great beasts and the 7 peak masters were staring at them. But when these words came out, he hesitated. Hearing this, Everyone's eyes lit up and they nodded. Those eyes seemed to be appreciating a delicious dish. Breathing heavily, he looked at the people in front of him and ordered. Seeing this scene, everyone looked at each other and said nothing. As commanded. Especially the bloodthirsty dragon at his feet. With a raised palm, there was a roar, and the strong power of the great Dao instantly turned into iron chains, sealing their limbs tightly. Before the two of them could speak, Jugayan grabbed the two of them across the void and disappeared in front of everyone. Control the strong Taoists and Buddhists first. But Xian was staring at Jugayan aside with a wary expression. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 400. It is best not to resist, otherwise you will have to spend time and energy to deal with them, which will be very troublesome. Afterwards, everyone took this group of people back to the nether boat. Only a few powerful people were left to go to Buddhist Gate and Taoism, and they were led by Bloodthirsty. In this way, the mission of annexing half of the Xianhuang territory is completed. The next moment, the nearby space shook. A crack tore open, and the soul demon controlled the nether boat and rushed inside, disappearing from the eyes of the public. Some strong men hiding in the darkness also came out, looking at the scene with half-squinted eyes, wondering what they were thinking. Profound Heaven Sect, in the magnificent hall. Qin Xian sat on the throne, closing his eyes, nurturing spirit. The sound of the system echoed in my mind. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing the mission you have obtained, a lifetime of immortal emperor power level experience, a system value of 400,000, twin demon bodies, 10 rank 6 mortal immortal jade beads, 5 rank 7 mortal immortal jade beads, and 1 rank 8 mortal immortal jade beads. Seeing this, Qin Xian opened his eyes with a calm expression. But he seemed to feel something and looked outside the hall. I saw a black shadow rushing into the hall in an instant, and there were two people firmly tied with iron chains on his hands. The black shadow is Jugayan, and the two people in his hands are Tianhai and Yungxing. But at this time, the two of them seemed to have fallen into a coma. Jugayan looked around, then looked at Qin Xian, cupped his hands and said, "I have brought you the person, can you give me the twin demon bodies?" Hearing this, Qin Xian nodded without changing his expression. Immediately, a silver ball of light appeared in his hand, and he threw it in front of Jugayan without hesitation. "There are twin demonic bodies here." Jugayan nodded suspiciously, put his hand on it, and then a silver ball of light rushed into his eyebrows instantly. In an instant, demonic energy billowed in the hall, and in a burst of black mist, the twin demonic bodies completely merged with Jugayan. At this moment, Jugayan suddenly discovered that his strength seemed to have increased, at least about 10% stronger than before. But he thought of something again, and he couldn't wait to use the power of the great Dao to condense a Jugayan who looked exactly like himself. This clone is no different from Jugayan, except that it lacks some facial expressions. Moreover, the clone was even colder than Jugayan himself, especially the dark eyes, which were like an abyss. But Jugayan didn't care about this, as long as his strength was the same as his own and he was obedient. Yunxing and Tianhai at the feet of Jugayan also gradually woke up, and they touched their hazy eyes. But he seemed to have remembered something, and his face instantly became alert until he saw Jugayan in front of him and Qin Xian on the throne. Seeing this scene, Jugayan's eyes lit up, he smiled at the two of them, and then stepped aside with his clone. Such a situation left the two of them a little confused. Tianhai couldn't help but raise his eyes to look at Qin Xian. After thinking for a while, Tianhai asked, "I wonder who you are." Upon hearing this, Qin Xian glanced at him indifferently, sat up from the throne, appeared in front of him, and looked at him. "I am the Sect Master of Profound Heaven Section." Profound Heaven Sect? The two looked at each other one after another. The name of the sect does not exist in their minds. But since there is a powerful immortal emperor level loyalist, I believe it must be a hidden force. Then he leaned over and cupped his hands towards Qin Xian. I wonder what Senior wants to do with us. Upon hearing this, Qin Xian did not choose to beat around the bush, but said directly. I came here for no other reason than to make you surrender to me. I wonder if you two have any intentions. What? The two looked stunned and lowered their heads. He did not directly insult Qin Xian, firstly because of his strength, and secondly because of the status gap. They know how much they are worth, but they dare not agree directly. After all, the forces behind them are Buddhist Gate and Taoism. When Duguian heard Qin Xian's words, he frowned and said secretly. In other words, he asked me to capture these two guys just to make them surrender. He is also an immortal emperor, and the two of them are also immortal emperors. If everyone agreed, it would be equivalent to having three powerful immortal emperors in the Profound Heaven sect, and they could become a first-rate force in an instant. They are all people who came up from the bottom, and their minds are full of calculations and conspiracies. But it also depends on whether that person has the strength to control the loyalty of three powerful immortal emperors. Seeing the two people leaving, Yun Xing, who stayed where he was, looked a little confused. He looked at Qin Xian in confusion and asked. Tianhai, Yun Xing, pays homage to the sect master. The last time to burn incense, otherwise, die. Hearing this, the three of them shook their heads. After a while, the two looked at each other and saw Yun Xing leaning down, cupping his hands and saying. Duguian, you are the great offering, Tianhai, you are the seventh offering, and Yunxing, you are the eighth offering. Before he could finish speaking, Qin Xian interrupted him. Hearing this, Qin Xian restrained his aura, and the strength of the three of them returned to Immortal Emperor. I wonder if the sect master has any reason to keep me here. Seeing this scene, the two nodded. Seeing this scene, the three people's pupils shrank, feeling that their lives were in extreme danger, and even breathing was a little breathless. Reporting to the sect master, no. But with Qin Xian's strength, because he has the power of the domain, he is not afraid of dozens of immortal emperors. The two of them couldn't help but start to look troubled. To be honest, as powerful immortal emperors, they really didn't want to surrender to others. Senior, it's not that we too are unwilling to surrender to you, but that we also have power behind us. If Qin Xian's face also turned cold, and he said indifferently. But Qin Xian seemed to have heard this, and the destruction domain was launched. With a bang, the strength of the three people in the hall instantly dropped to the ancient saint realm. And he still surrendered so humiliatingly. As you command. At least it's enough to defeat them. Do you have any comments? Okay, then Duguian and Tianhai will retreat, and Yun Xing will stay. After all, who can become the immortal emperor? Who is not a great hero? It's scary to think about it. This. I bought an emperor pill that stabilizes the realm from it. The two of them thought about it for half a quarter of an hour, and Qin Xian never rushed them, but waited quietly. Qin Xian glanced at him and said nothing, but instead sneaked into the system mall. In this case, from now on, the three of you are one of the 8 offerings of my Profound Heaven section. You don't need to tell me this. You just need to answer whether you agree or disagree. Seeing this, the two of them lowered their heads and swallowed. Finally, they sighed, looked at Qin Xian and nodded.